Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's do the prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Bhavaswaha, Tatsavitra Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yo Naha Prachodayate. Asto ma sagamya tamso ma jyotirgamya mrityurma amritam gamya. Om sahnavavtu sahnabhunaktu saviryam karvavai tejasvi navadhitamastu ma vidvishavahi. Om shanti shanti shanti. Okay, today is Saturday and we go through the verses in Yog Darshan. And a couple of weeks ago, we had this class, and we ended the class with verse number 36. That's what my notebook says, 36. So this is a third chapter, Vibhuti Pad. Vibhutis means the powers. These powers do come automatically, actually. But sometimes by doing a special sadhana, we can attain these powers too. But then our motive has to be pure. It should not be selfish. It should be for the benefit of others. But ordinarily, we should not run after the powers as a yoga student, yoga vyasa. So now in verse number 37, Rishi Patanjali is saying, tatah pratibha shravannavedanadarshasvadavarta jayante. So this is about the intuitive perception. Tatah, therefrom, Pratibha, the faculty of superior consciousness, which is intuition. Shravan, the faculty of hearing. Vedana, the touch. Darsh, visualization. Aswad, the faculty of taste. Vartaha, the olfactory faculty, the hearing. Jayante are produced. So Rishi Patanjali is saying, therefrom are produced transcendental powers of hearing, sensation, perception, taste, all of them. So these are the transcendental faculties concerning the sense organs. So it's like a pratibhashravan, pratibhadarshan, etc. So this pratibha word is connected with all of them. So the word pratibha is common to all the 5 faculties. So how do we get it? By Samyam, by practicing Samyam on the Purusa, on the subjective awareness, as he has been describing it in the previous verses. So the transcendental faculties pertaining to the sense organs of hearing, touch, seeing, taste, smell, etc. Sometimes we come across people who have these faculties. Maybe they have done some abhyas in this life or even in the previous life. So these faculties are the product of Samyam on the subjective experience. So they are obtained through Samyam on Purusa. So very clearly, Rishi Patanjali is describing the experience resulting from applying the power gained by Chit Samvit, which we learned last time. Right? The Chit Samvit comes from practicing Samyam on the lotus of the heart. We learned that also. In the normal course of life, the deep-rooted habit of identifying an object, we get so absorbed into the objective world, we forget about the subject in us. But in the immersive state of Chit Samvit, this deep-rooted habit is transformed into the sheer power. Shakti Matra. Just only the Shakti. We gain the knowledge of the Purusa, pure awareness. So by practicing the Samyam on the object of awareness, we gain the knowledge of that object, and that is the subject of this sutra. The range of our experience of the objective world, we all know, can be divided into 5 categories. We are all familiar with that. We experience objects of world by hearing, touching, seeing, tasting, and smelling. So our mind is dependent on the senses for its cognition. According to yoga, the senses are an extension of the mind. The sense organs are the physical locus of the mental power coursing through them. And if you look at it from the standpoint of contacting and experience the objects of the phenomenal world, the mind is the subject and the experience is the object actually. But when we are in the immersive state of Chit Samvit, the mind, along with the senses or sensory experiences, is the object. And Chit Samvit, the mind's knowing power, is the subject over there. This is how this Chit Samvit, the knowing power of the mind, elevates the mind to the point where it belongs or starts to comprehend the vast universe of the cognition. There are numberless sensory experiences, and some of them are already stored in our memory. But we got to make our mind highly empowered. Right now, our mind is dependent upon the senses. It's not capable of rising above these. So the intuitive light is the ground for the mind's ability to transcend sensory limitations. Intuition. And the Sanskrit word for intuitive light is Pratibha. So this is what the key word in this particular verse, Pratibha. Reflecting or responding to Bha. Bha means pure light. So in the state of Chit Samvit, the mind is so pure, so pristine, that it mirrors the luminosity of the Atma without distortion. And in this state of mind, the self-luminous, pervasive Purush is seen as it is. Let me tell you that this state of comprehension is not an ordinary cognition. It comes after a lot of sadhana. Only then we can have this pure intuitive understanding of an object. Where the appearance of this mind that is fully in the glow of pure consciousness. By employing the unique power of Chitta Samvit, we are able to unveil Shabad Samvit, the knowing power of sound, Sparash Samvit, the knowing power of touch, the Roop Samvit, knowing power of form, Ras Samvit, the knowing power of taste, and Gandh Samvit, the knowing power of smell. So if you study other yogic scriptures, you will read about these powers also. Now the question is, what purpose these extraordinary accomplishments serve, and whether or not they are essential to achieving the highest goal of yoga. That's what is the subject of the next verse. Very clearly, Rishi Patanjali is almost warning us. He has done that before also, but again he says, te samadhavupasargaa vyutthane siddhayah. Te means they. Samadhav, in samadhi. Upasargaa, obstacles. Vyutthane, in the state of consciousness of the world. Siddhya, psychic powers. So these psychic powers mentioned in the previous sutras are obstacles in samadhi. But in the state of outwardly running mind, vyutthane, they are psychic powers. So for a worldly person, sure, these are powers. But a yogi sees these powers as an obstacle. There's a chance that we might run after them. So in other words, in the extroverted position, they are psychic powers. That's why this almost looks like miracles, and yogis, they stay away from the miracles. So far as samadhi is concerned, they act as hindrances. Why? Because the mind of a yogi does not remain permanently in samadhi. It fluctuates. We use our mind to work in this outer world also. So in that state, these powers can be manifested, but when we are in samadhi, these powers create disturbance if they are allowed to manifest. The first state of siddhi is there when the student is in samadhi. Even a student doesn't want to practice or achieve siddhi, they will come to him automatically, due to the development of the higher consciousness in deep meditation. And when they manifest themselves, they create disturbance in samadhi. They will generate a psychic vibration. This disturbs the peaceful state of samadhi. So their effects can be seen or observed or tried when the student comes out of samadhi. So he is warning us He is clearly telling us the relative value of practicing Samyam on different objects and the experiences gained from those practices. Because we saw last time when we were in this class that the practice of Samyam on the lotus of the heart can lead us to unfold the knowing power of the mind. That is a big power. So this immersive state eventually matures into Nirbij Samadhi. So if we use this while keeping the ultimate goal, all of this can be used moving forward towards the highest state of Samadhi. Otherwise, we can get lost into this worldly amusement again. So the basic thrust of these practices is to unveil the mystery of the mind, discover its strength, and also its weaknesses, because our mind has both. We got to gain a clear understanding of potential pitfalls. On my practice, where can I slip? By knowing it, we won't slip. We got to learn how to devise a strategy to complete the Samadhi-bound quest with the fewest distractions. Otherwise, these powers become distractions for us. It's almost like if we want to go somewhere and we end up on the wrong road, get distracted by something. We got to remember the human frailty. So that's why Rishi Patanjali is warning us again not to mistake the means for the goal. Okay, so these powers, we can use them as a means, but they are not the goal. He is advising us that remain focused on Samadhi. That is the highest goal of yoga. When we look at the chart of Raj Yoga or Hatha Yoga, see, Raj Yoga has 8 limbs. The 8th one is Samadhi. And when we look at the Hatha Yoga also, the 7 stages, the 7th one is Samadhi. So goal is a Samadhi, not to gain these powers. Let's look at the next verse. Verse number 39. Bandh karan shathiliyat prachar samvednat na chitasya par sharir avesha. This is about entering another's body. Bandh means bondage. Karan means cause. Shathiliyat, by loosening. Prachar, passage. Samvednat, by knowledge. Sha means and, chitasya, of the subtle body. Par means of others. Sharir, body. Avesh, entry. From the loosening of the cause of bondage, and by the knowledge of the passage, the subtle body enters another person's body. This particular psychic power is of a very high order. The sadhak steps out of his body and enters the body of another person. The sadhak can also utilize the help of somebody. We hear this in the case of many liberated persons and advanced students of yoga. But two conditions must be fulfilled in order to do this. Number one, he says, loosening of the cause of bondage. And what is the cause of bondage for us? Love of our physical body, fear of death, the kleshas. So this cause of bondage must be loosened. And the second condition is knowledge of the path or passage of entry. So the subtle body is removed and separated from the physical body by loosening the kleshas, fear, etc. And when the subtle body is out and away from its original physical body, the physical body must be properly taken care of. Otherwise, it will be impossible to come back. So that's why somebody else's help is needed. So the causes of bondage must be relaxed and the body should be preserved in good condition. The subtle body is to be separated from the gross body. It's almost like two pieces of cloth, if they are glued together. How do we remove one from the other? By breaking the glue. This is what he is talking about, loosening the cause of the bondage. But then the second condition, there should be a knowledge of the passage. That is the nadi along which the chit has to enter into the body of another person. Only then the entry into another body becomes possible. So he is introducing over here Parkaya Parvesha. It's a fascinating practice, but it's a pretty deep knowledge. So Parkaya Parvesh is like a composite word. Parkaya Parvesh. Par means another, Kaya means body, Parvesh means process or act of entering. This is a term most commonly used in the scriptures. Or another term they use is par sharir avesh. It's the same thing. So it's like an implication of shedding yourself from one body and entering into the another, descending into another body, fully infusing it with self-awareness. High caliber yogis undertake this practice. But there has to be a reason for it. First reason is to gain a direct experience of the limitless mystery of both their mind and the mother nature. It really enables them to understand why consciousness needs a physical entity to carry out its quest for fulfillment and freedom, and how it feels when consciousness has no physical locus. It's almost like an experiment. And the second reason they undertake this practice is to outrun death. Because we all know death sucks us into nothingness. So Parkaya Parvesh entails keeping the mind intact, protecting it from the influence of death, leaving the body without falling into unconsciousness, guiding the mind to descend into another body, infusing that body with the Chit Samvit, along with the entire knowledge it contains. And the yogis of this caliber, they have the capacity to do all that. They learned the value of extraordinary powers. And this is not just to show the miracle, but it's for their own upliftment, or sometimes maybe to help the society at large. But the skillfulness to transport the meditative state deeper into the brain center, which we learned in the Chitta Samvit, is very important. Without that, it cannot be done. By employing the power of Chitta Samvit, we can focus our awareness on the knower within. Because this is the one which really leads to Purush Jnanam, the knowledge of this Atma. So we can clearly see that he is telling us that this technique is divided into two parts. The process of getting out of our body and the process of entering another body. And normally the other body, which is just the Atma just left. The body has not decomposed yet, and they think they can use it. And sometimes yogis, they enter into not just only a physical human body, into a body of a butterfly, because that is easier. Or even a body of a flower. Just to practice, can we do that? Leaving this body and entering into the another body. We can accomplish this by nullifying the impact of the fivefold affliction on our mind and consciousness. That means we have to be above our mind, above our afflictions. We know that in principle, the mind is the master of the body. If it's dull, if it's dense, it has less capacity to command the forces that govern and guide the functions of the body. So if we have not worked on our mind, if it's not fully clean, pristine, or in our control, these are just only the sutras just to look at. So the practice of pran dharana is the key to success in parkaya parvesh. So pran also, not just the mind alone. We all know that pran dharana comes from merging the mind and pran. I often tell you that we got to learn how to join our mind with the pran. That's called a pran dharana. This process is called manaha pran ekyano sandhan, making them one. Once this merger has taken place and has matured, we can begin the practice of leaving this body willingly and then coming back. First, we got to practice on our own body, leaving this body. Don't we read in the scriptures, the yogis, they leave, go to another planets, travel, and come back. So not into another body, but our own body also. So the first step in this practice is to lead the combined forces of the mind and the pran back and forth from one part of the body to another with a full conscious control. Then second step is to lead them back and forth from the marma sthan to the next. Then after that comes the focus on the lotus of the heart. So there are several stages before we can even think about doing this kind of a sadhana. Because entering into a complex body or leaving this our complex body, because we are so attached to it, it's just like something to just only wonder about. So the tradition tells us that the best way to practice parkaya parvesh is to re-enter our own body first. Then thinking about entering into somebody else's body, if there's any necessity for that. So parkaya parvesh opens the floodgate of intuitive knowledge and infinite knowledge, actually. Because we are not familiar with this, our body. We are not familiar with our mind. Just only a very small portion. This body also, where are we concentrated most of the time? The looks, the outer layer of the skin, or how tall we are, how much do we weigh. We are constantly obsessed with that. We don't know this beautiful body which God has given it to us. And the mind also. Do we really know our mind? Are we familiar with it? Does it listen to us? When we pay a little attention to the deeper layers of ourselves, we get a direct experience not only of our immortal nature, of our core being, but also how untouched we are with our reality. So, parkaya parvesh, the fear of death has to be gone if you want to practice it. And we should have a unbounded respect for the life force. It really breaks down the wall between the duality and non-duality, mortality and immortality. And it really fills us with the joy of being free here and now. So that's why it is mentioned that high caliber yogis practice this. So let's look at next verse 39. What other vibhutis yogis attain? Udan, jayat, jal, pank, kantak adishu, asang, utkranti cha. Udan. Udan is one of the 5 prans, if you remember. Udan. Jayat, by mastery. Jal means water. Pank means mud. Kantak adishu, with thorns, etc. Asang, no contact. Utkranti, levitation. Cha means and. So by mastery of Udan, there is non-contact with water, mud, thorns, etc. And the body levitates. So the center of the Udan is where? In the throat. And it moves upward into the region of the head. At the time of death, this pran, Udan, makes the subtle body free from the physical body. It's Udan Vayu. And the method of mastery over Udan is not given in the scriptures actually. Some people say it's a Samyam, some say that it's kind of a pranayam. But you have to practice it. You got to learn how to work against the gravitational pull of the earth. So that is like a physical part of it. Levitation is a well-known phenomenon. It is done through the practice of pranayama. So mastery over Udan can be had by practicing pranayama, some practitioners say. So we are all familiar with this. When we sit down in our meditation, there is always some kind of a upward movement we feel. Like a elation also. Doesn't have to be the physical body, but elation. Uplifting feeling. It's almost like an upward pull. That is Udan. So domain of the Udan Shakti extends from the lowest part of the body all the way towards our head. So like physically, sometimes we feel pulled up, but emotionally also, mentally also. So the upward pull or push and the uplifting feelings and experiences in this space, that is a function of Udan. So by practicing Samyam on this dimension of Pran Shakti, we are able to pull our awareness from the lower part of the body and direct it to the crown. It's like a final transition is towards the crown and enter the higher reaches of the space of consciousness, which is known as Sahasrara Chakra. So mastery over Udan Shakti enables us to remain unaffected by the obstructions caused by water, he says in this verse, mud and thorns. Philosophically, he is referring to the imbalances caused by the 5 elements that constitute our body. He's not talking about walking on the water. We can very easily take a boat to go across. We don't have to learn how to walk on the water. We got to look at the deeper meaning of this verse. At the time of death, the body is subject to numberless factors, the majority of which are beyond our comprehension. We all know that disease, old age, toxins, and unpredictable emotional havoc associated with the dying throw our bodily fluids out of balance. Yogis call this drowning in water. Too little or too many minerals and hormones starve or clog our vital organs. In yogic terminology, this is becoming stuck in mud. That is punk. Similarly, the nervous system's response to the pain of dying is referred to as being pricked by thorns. So mastery over Udan Shakti enables us to push our way up through these conditions during our final departure. This is what he's talking about. Gaining this mastery is particularly useful when we are getting out of our own body. One of the most significant centers of Udan Shakti is Bhru Madhya. the center between the eyebrows. The upward movement of awareness is most pronounced at this center, right in the middle of our forehead. We learned in Bhagavad Gita, in 8th chapter, verse number 10, Lord Krishna said, by applying the power of yoga, at the time of final departure, a yogi channels his pran shakti into the center between the eyebrows, and from there reaches the realm of absolute being. The yogis know how to let go of this shell which we call body. When a yogi allows the Udan Shakti dimension of Pran to lead the mind to the center of the forehead as part of the meditation, he does so with exerting any effort. Just like it becomes a natural for a yogi to bring the Pran right over here. When the yogi resorts to Udan Shakti in the moments just preceding death, pushes the Chit Samvit. Sure, there is a little effort involved, but if we have done the practice beforehand, it becomes easy. It is important to remember that the ability to develop the power of Udan during the last moments of life is highly dependent on mastery over Udan, which really comes from consistent and the sustained practice. It's not that learning now and then at the time of departure, using it. We got to consistently, regularly use this. It is only when the practice has matured that a yogi can use this kriya to get out of the body without obstruction. Okay, Udan. So I just wanted to make sure that you understand. He's not talking about over here in this verse that yogis can walk on the thorns or walk over the water. That is not a goal of a yogi. It's a pretty deep verse because sometimes we think that if somebody can walk over the water, is an accomplished yogi. That is not what he's talking about. So next week we'll start with the verse number 41, where he is talking about the Samanvaya. Saman Jayat Jwalanam. See, that's why it is so important to understand the basic terminology also, and then doing the practice also, not just theoretical knowledge, but practicing it too. But to ask ourselves, this is almost 11:15 right now. Did we do our yoga? Did we do neti today? How long did we meditate? Did we do pranayama properly? Few asanas? Prayers? All of that. Only then we can reach or even think about reaching to the levels which he's talking about. So we'll start next week with verse number 41. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much.